As you know, we talk about education and education reform a lot here, but sometimes we don't hear from it from the people who have lived it. Well, here are a couple of ladies who have lived it from every side. I want to introduce Donna Nicholson. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And Kay Harvey. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Now,
Thank you.
You two, not only have you written this new book, Sacred Elephants, about the elephant in the room on education, but you've really lived almost every part of government-run education.
Yes, we have.
Tell me what you've done.
I've done everything from the classroom through the principalship to the state level and 3 superintendencies and adjunct professor at a university.
So you've been a superintendent for everything from a teacher to principal, superintendent?
Right on all the way.
Over here?
And I've been a teacher principal in charge of curriculum and instruction in 3 states and assistant secretary of education in New Mexico.
All right, you guys are on the inside. Now, I'm on the outside. I keep saying we need to change government-run education. It's failing, and it's failing our kids. Tell me why you feel so strongly about it that you had to put this out.
Well, the reason that we had to put this out is that we have dealt with all of these 10 areas that we talked about that are blocking our country from our educational system from being successful. And so we thought at this point in our career, this is what we want to do. We want to tell people that if we don't fix this problem, our country's freedom is at stake.
How do you mean?
Well, we can't compete internationally on tests. We score down with Russia. We spend more money per student on education than any country in the world, and we get the poorest performance.
No. No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
I've heard from everybody, we do not spend enough money on kids, particularly here in Colorado, where we're 49th in the nation. By the way, I've got friends in other states. They're also 49th in the nation. I've never quite figured out how every state could be 49th in the nation on funding, but they have a different. What's the problem? If you could boil it down, what is it you're trying to solve?
We're trying to solve the fact that everybody else in the system is considered except the children.
How do you mean?
When you look at what's causing schools to not be successful, frequently, more often than we'd like to even admit, what we find is inside those schools, they're taking care of adult issues, union issues, and the child is the last person even thought about.
Now, I've fought a lot of tax increases for the kids, and I've seen the kids in front of every TV ad. I've seen them talk about their books. I've seen them talk about their schools and the buildings that are falling down. I've never seen them say, you know, the union needs more money or the administration does. I mean, when you say it's not about the kids, be more precise. What do you mean it's not about the kids? You have this whole system to educate kids.
We are so fond of saying we're here for the kids. But when you look at what goes on inside of school buildings, you have to question that.
Like what?
For an example, you will have well, a very good example. We just finished a contract a couple of years ago in a large urban district.
When you say contract, you do consulting for school districts.
Yes. And we fought for about 6 months with the union so that we could get teachers to write lesson plans. If you don't write lesson plans, how is it you know what you're going to deliver to the students who deserve everything that you have to give them?
The lesson plan is just, on this week we're going to do this, on the next week we're going to do that.
Actually,
so by the end,
more than that, the standards, how are we going to address those?
And teachers are not allowed to make those?
In this
they were told they were
district,
professionals and did not have to do them. They knew what they were teaching.
Did teachers want to do this?
No.
Why
You
not?
mean, do they want to write the lesson plan? They had been so long being able not to write them that no, they weren't happy that we might make them write lesson plans.
The top quality teachers were writing them anyway.
Sure.
But we were asking everyone to write them so that when we went in to see a lesson in their classroom, we could see that they were teaching it. Well, even after 6 months and we had them writing lesson plans, we'd go in and there was no match between their teaching and what was in the lesson plans. So it was a paper, we did it, now we're done. No alignment.
What is the major change that needs to happen? If you had the magic wand, I mean, we can say why education's broken. Every time I hear it, it's resources. It's always resources. We don't have enough resources. If only we had more resources. But if you could wave the magic wand, what would you change?
I'd change the structure of school boards. That's an old model. It's 200 years old, and it's the same model we've been using. We need to look at a different management structure. And it's not people being elected by the union that should be running the schools.
Well, hang on a second. The idea is that a community gets together and people run for the school board that represent the values of that community, and they keep an eye on the school district. They hire a superintendent, you both have been there, and hire people like you to run the operation. We do that in all levels of government.
Well, what you have to also consider is when it comes time to have a board election, it is very difficult, and in some communities nearly impossible, to get someone to run for the board. And then when they do, it's somebody with a single interest or an axe to grind. And then if you look at the turnout for the election, in most places it is 7% or less. So you have that quantity of people electing the people who are going to make decisions about your school.
And you're going to tell me that the union has a lot to do with who ends up on the school board.
Oh, they do contribute to school board elections in many ways.
As well as many other political elections.
What would you change? How, if we didn't have this system where school boards do it, who would govern our school district?
When you look at our part 2 of our book, we actually have two different types of school boards, but they're not school boards. We have friends of the schools, and we have a representative group that has experts from the community. We would have a parent, but it would be based on people who had knowledge and skills that we need to help us be the best we can be. When you put just community members on it, you are not getting the best help that you can get in a school board.
Talk more about revenue and spending. What really got me about Sacred Elephants is you make a case that we don't need more money in government education. Now, this makes no sense to me because everyone who's in education tells me we need more money, that we can't build schools unless we have more money. Yes, we've been spending more than ever, not only in Colorado, but around the nation. And for the last 30 years, our scores have been flat. We keep spending more and more and more. What do you mean we can get more? Give me, and I want some hard examples, not just that good old conservative rhetoric, we can do more with less, but how?
Well, the issue is that not how much we have, it's what we do with it. An example would be if you go into a large district, you will find the central office where you have coordinators who have coordinators. There is a passel of people in that central office. You go into the schools and you don't see quite that rich array of people in support. Districts will argue with you that those large ones, that you have to have those people at the central office. I would argue that no, what you have to have is the best leader you can find anywhere in the school who hires the best teachers that you can find anywhere. That's where the money needs to be spent. It's not.
Here in this state, it was interesting to find out that over the last 10 years, the growth of teachers per student kind of matched the growth of the student population, but that administrative personnel growth was off the charts. I forget the number, but it was close to 50% over the rate of student growth. I mean, that our money keeps going into administration, and not going into the classroom. How would you change that?
Well, the way we would change it is that we would not, we believe that you need choice. So we think that charter schools, private schools, whatever they are, need to be smaller. I've worked in districts of 146,000 students. That is far too large. We need smaller districts. We need smaller number of schools, and I think we need to have just quality leadership and teachers. That's where I'd spend my money.
You said charter schools. We have charter schools here in Colorado. We've had them now for 20 years, and I remember the fight to get them, and I got to thank folks like Roy Romer, a Democrat, who really took the heat and said, no, we're doing this. The union said we can't do it. It's going to destroy education. Now we have more kids in charter schools than we do in any school district. It would be the largest school district. And those fears didn't come true. Are you saying that money going into private schools would be an alternative as well? That is, I mean, because that's sure sounding like the voucher word that scares so many people.
I am not afraid of vouchers because I think competition is important in our kind of society. If parents have choice, they're going to support that choice. But right now we have choice, but we don't have choice. Parents who don't have the resources really don't have choice. And so we really want to have charter schools, as many as we can, or private schools or whatever, that are smaller, that don't require that large bureaucracy that you have in large school systems. That's where your money is going. And we want it at the child level.
And really, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter whether you are a public school dispensing instruction, you're a private school, or a charter school. I'm going to go back to the leadership and teacher issue. The research is really clear. It doesn't matter which one of those configurations you have. If you do not have someone with supreme leadership skills, and then you have teachers who are also at the top of their game, it won't matter what configuration you have them in.
For the union members who are watching and rolling their eyes, to the extent say, all right, you guys have been teachers, you've been administrators, you've been superintendents, but it's different now. We've got more special needs kids. If we had things like vouchers, it means that the money would be flying out the door. We wouldn't have the money and the resources that we need to take care of special needs kids. I'm a parent of a special
I would
needs
disagree.
kid.
I was in an urban district with 9 special ed buses coming into my school. I did not have any more resources than anyone else, and we met the needs of those students because we had quality teachers.
And I'll go back and tell you that when I was teaching in the Stone Age, we didn't even distinguish special needs students from regular ones, and we took care of them in good school districts because we had excellent teachers.
But that works up to a point. But when you have a child in a wheelchair who can't get up the steps, there are issues there.
I'm not saying that we should not devote resources to those special needs children. I am saying to some extent the tail has wagged the dog now because the pendulum has gone way too far over on one side.
Let me ask you for some real examples. This is all wonderful. Who's doing it right? Point to a place in the state or in the nation where you go, this is the kind of change we need more of.
Brownsville School District in Texas.
What have they done?
They have, the superintendent there, Carlos, has absolutely moved that district forward and the success of those students who come from poverty, who are second language speakers. Mike Miles did it in Harrison.
Here in Colorado.
In Colorado.
What did he do?
He instituted pay for performance. He basically said to the union, if you will come with me and see a teacher that I think needs to be gone, and sit in that classroom and tell me your child could be in that classroom, then I will accept that. But no union person would take him up on that.
That's leadership.
That is leadership. He would go in a classroom and when he saw poor teaching, he'd stop it and teach it himself. Because he knew what good leadership, what teaching was.
He didn't ask them if they wanted to do certain things. He didn't ask the union if he could. He simply was a leader and said, this is good for kids. I'm doing it.
Pay for performance, from my point of view, sounds like a no-brainer, but I think a lot of teachers are scared of it because they've never dealt with it before. How long does it take for somebody to be good with it? Douglas County now is working on pay for performance. Harrison did it, and it has worked out very well. Will it work out well in Douglas?
I don't think teachers are afraid of pay for performance. I think unions are afraid of pay for performance.
Why?
Because they want everybody treated the same. They don't want anybody to get more for doing a good job. I think a teacher gets paid if they show growth of students in their classroom. That's why you have to have some measurement of that. And for teachers to fight that, they don't fight it if they're good.
And I must say, in all fairness, one of the school districts I worked with in Indianapolis had a union that they were absolutely compatible with, and you can't imagine what good things happen.
Ladies, thank you. Book Sacred Elephants, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, grab it if you have kids. Hey, listen for me on KHOW Radio. Tell a friend about the Independence Institute. That's independenceinstitute.org, and we'll see you next week.